Welcome to Midwest Mind Melt with your hosts Josh and Jason.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Midwest Mind Melt. I'm Jason.
I'm Josh.
And, well, we're going to get right into it this time.
I don't know about you, man, but I've been watching some news lately. My mother-in-law, she loves to watch CNN, and I swear, man, every time I'm watching it with her, it always just sounds like the sky's falling. Have you been catching any news lately?
Josh, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, man. I don't really watch the news. I really lost interest in watching the news a long time ago. I feel like a lot of the things that were being shown aren't necessarily what's actually happening. I don't have a very big opinion of the media. When I got back from the Virgin Islands in 2017, I did an interview with News 6 out of Lincoln about the mobilization down there, and I did the interview. I think the interview was 30 minutes long, and my segment on TV was legitimately like 10 seconds of what I said. And so after that, I kind of got to the point where I'm like, man, they edit it out so fast that if there's something they don't want you to hear, then you're not going to hear it. So to be honest with you, man, like I don't really watch the news anymore. Everything I catch on like social media or through newspaper articles, because I'll follow the Fremont Tribune on Facebook, and so like if there's an article that catches my eye that they post, I will read it. Obviously, that's the town I live in. I'm going to read it. Same with the Journal Star.
Yeah.
Out of Lincoln, and so. But and that was another reason. My dad's a big Fox News person, man, and it was kind of like when we went down there to visit them. That's all he had on, and I kind of got annoyed by it because it's like it's always the same stuff. And yeah, you're right. It's always somebody's making it sound like the sky's falling, and I can't do it, you know.
Well, man, honestly, dude, I can't blame you for not wanting to watch news. And with people our age and even people older than us, they really don't have any interest in watching, televised mass media because everybody knows it's kind of bullshit. I haven't met too many people who have really bought into what an anchor on Fox News or an anchor on MSNBC had to say. There's a few people, and they're just idiots, but I haven't really met. Nobody comes to mind. But that's I just find that interesting. So I'm going to guess that you get most of your news from Facebook.
I would say probably a good portion of it comes from social media, yes.
And I think that's a very common thing, especially with people our age. I just find that interesting. I mean, probably the people I know that watch CNN the most, like I said, my mother-in-law. So I'd probably say like inmates and old people. I don't know. But I guess I just want to watch it because I like catching clips of it. Just because I feel like I'm almost watching a really bad play out. It really just seems like it. The anchors, they really you can tell they're reading off a script.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell they're not doing like what we're doing here. What we're doing here, we are unscripted. We are just we're trying to talk in a normal conversation. These people are not doing that. And I think people can see the phoniness and the bullshit in it.
Well, realistically, I mean, they're getting told what to say. And I don't think I could ever be a news anchor or a reporter because I would have several moral issues with not being able to tell people exactly what's happening. I'm one of those people, I like to get everything out on the table regardless of the situation. And I feel like news anchors and reporters don't get that opportunity. And I actually, one of the females that went down to the Virgin Islands with us actually is a reporter for News 6, i.e. the interview. But and it was funny because we were talking about it, and she goes, our weather, we get it from the Weather Channel app just like you guys, which tells me that they don't know any more about anything than we do at this point. They do get these headlines of like, oh, this happened, oh, that happened. Yeah, that's great, but I don't think that what they're telling us is stuff that we can't find elsewhere. And I know that there's a lot of people that'll fact check the news reports, and that goes back to like the mass shootings and what was reported as compared to what actual people saw when they were there. And it's just one of those things. There's so much sketchiness that goes on with mass media now. It's hard to believe 90% of what they're telling us.
Right. And just to expand on that, I have heard reporters and journalists, they almost talk like how you would expect a very cocky veteran to talk, almost like they're doing humanity a service, like they're just as good as a veteran because they are reporting to me news. They're giving me information that I would otherwise not have any access to, and so I kind of should be thankful for that. And I can't I can't agree with that. I just don't think that they're honestly doing a real service to humanity. Like you said, they are being told what to say. So the people that end up making it in these fields, in mass media, I mean, these are people that agree with the narrative and are going along with it, or they at least pretend like they do, which is just as bad if you're going to put aside all of your morals just to make money.
And I think a lot of that actually began, if you go back to World War I, World War II, when the idea of propaganda started. And so they were feeding these thoughts and, they were trying to get people to think a certain way, by reporting certain things. And I feel like that's where this has gotten way out of hand, because even today we still do that. 9/11 was a huge there's a lot of reasons, a lot of people will tell you, 9/11, the terrorists and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but we needed something to really, fuel the American people to come together and solve this issue. And so when you look at it, so what was really going on over there may not have actually been what was going on, but the news media made it sound like we were going over there and we were doing what we had to do to get back at the people that hurt us. And maybe 75% of that's correct, but they're not telling you everything that happens. I don't know. I just, again, man, it's just too crazy to think that everything that they tell us is 100% truth.
Well, and you said 9/11. I mean, 9/11 was probably one of the major incidents that made people lose faith in the media, probably in our lifetime anyway, because there was a lot more that was going on that day than what was initially reported. And a lot of people who were actually in New York were complaining that the news channel was just focusing on a lot of variables that didn't really seem to make a big difference. Like, why was nobody talking about Tower 7 falling down? That came out later. Mm-hmm. And so either there's a narrative that they're trying to follow, or it was very sloppy reporting, and because of that sloppy reporting, it opened up the door to a wide range of conspiracy theories and a distrust in our own government and our media. So either way, it doesn't look good.
No, and social media hasn't helped that at all. It's actually probably fueled the fire even more, because now you have fake news outlets reporting certain things. And there's a lot of times I'll see an article on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm like, oh man, so I don't even think about it, but first thing I do, I go to Google and I fact check it to see it, oh, this person died at the age of whatever, and it's like, oh, that's a hoax. I was like, people will do anything they can if they can get somebody to believe it. And the thing is as a generation, we're starting to fall into that pattern where we're going to start believing everything that we hear, which is exactly how Hitler was able to accomplish what he accomplished. He wasn't, he was a smart man, but he was more fluid in the way he spoke to people and how he addressed people. And that's why people followed him, because he was able to gain people's trust just by using the words that he knew. And it's crazy to think that we so easily believe everything that we read online or everything we see. And YouTube's even becoming one of those places I try to stay off of anymore, unless I'm looking for, a tutorial on how to tie a fishing knot or something. But it's just come to that point where it's like, you can't really trust what you're seeing. Even if it's just, if I was to put a video out there, you can't trust everything that I'm gonna say. If it's talking about a specific subject, or we're doing like some kind of report, and that's kind of where that comes into play. But it's not gonna look good in the near future when we start looking at people starting to follow, as they call them, be the sheeps. Being a sheep. Because they believe everything that they read on Facebook. I don't know how many times when I was an assistant store manager, I worked with a lot of high school kids, and they're like, "Man, did you see this thing on Facebook? This thing happened." I was like, probably shouldn't read everything or believe everything you read on Facebook. I'm like, I would probably do some more additional research into that, just to make sure that what you're saying is accurate. Because that's how, on another subject, that's how rumors get started, and that's how things like that ruin people's lives. Because one person reads something that somebody else put, who may have heard that from somebody else and may have messed up the context. And now we got somebody who can't do something with their life because everything that was said about them, everybody believes it now because it's been passed around so many times. And that's where social media has really kind of failed us as a generation.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong. Now, the part that I would say, that I would disagree with, is that social media has definitely been a downfall for many businesses and a lot of individuals because of false information that was passed around. But also, what gives me hope with social media is it has also exposed a lot of media. I mean, by definition, we are not mass media because we don't have an audience, at least a large audience yet. But we are, participating in media right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we're part of the problem anyway, because we're not part of mass media. We're not part of the mass hysteria or whatever, the mass disinformation.
Yeah.
But so social media has kind of been a double-edged sword. It's kind of been it's been a great tool for people like us to share information with people who think just like us, maybe in Boston somewhere, or maybe in Florida. There's people that think just like us.
It's also worked to bring people together as well. I know I'm a part of several board game pages with people from all over the world. Some of these pages have 20,000-30,000 people from all over the world, and it's cool to collab with these people and talk to them and talk about something that you all share, that you all have in common, and it's great. And the ability to, I remember when eBay first started, it was such a huge thing. eBay was the huge step in the technological world of being able to sell things not just to the person down the street but to anybody. And now with social media, Facebook being able, there's several garage sale pages, and there's cars for sale, boys stuff or whatever, and so it's really brought the world together as an individual. So yeah, you're right. I'd have to agree with you on that it's definitely helped us in a way. But as far as, everybody believing what they see on there, that's where it kind of screws us as a generation.
Now, and here's the interesting thing, because I've heard so many different groups. I mean, I've heard an extreme liberal everywhere to an extreme, radical person who's on the right. I've heard people talk about, the masses as sheep. They refer to them as sheeple. And both sides, describe these sheeple as different people. Like somebody today could say, well, the sheeple are Trump supporters. They are the people that believe anything that Trump does, or, they look past all of his faults, all of his rape allegations or whatever, and they just blindly follow him like a bunch of sheep. And, back when Obama was president, people would say, on the right, would say the same thing about Obama supporters, that they were a bunch of sheep. So that just, I guess, what makes me, where I'm getting at here, as I want to ask you, is why does every group out there think that the media is their enemy?
I think it's because the media has always been divided to a certain extent. And are we talking mass media? Are we talking social media, anything like that?
Honestly, I mean, I guess we could talk about all of it, but what I'm trying to get at is that the media is a very hard thing to define, because there is definitions that you could read out of the dictionary about it, but when you really try to break it down, and when you really try to, talk about the propaganda from it, I mean, it goes in a million different directions, like a mirror that's shattered. I mean, it just shines in many different directions. And I just find that interesting that every group, because even people that I disagree with all the way down to our fundamental values, I mean, they still think the media is against them. And me, I would even say when I watch the news or when I look on social media, I see a lot of context that I just disagree with down to the core. And so, it almost feels like it's against me. It just amazes me that there's a force out there, or that there's a thing out there that can make people feel so isolated or so, hated, or it amazes me that there's something out there that just makes people feel like everything's against them.
And I think part of that just comes with, when you believe in something wholeheartedly, and you're passionate about it, no matter what anybody says, it's not going to change the way you feel about it. And there's a lot of people out there that when somebody doesn't see things the way that they see them, they're automatically the enemy. And it's just that discourse, that we have that as human beings to defend what we believe in. And so, yeah, you might see somebody that works for the media that's on the right, and then so obviously somebody on the left's going to hate that person because they don't see eye to eye. And that's why I would say probably the biggest reason is just we don't give each other enough credit to support each other, because in to let us believe what we want to believe and still be able to work that. so many people want to be like, no, you have to believe this. You have to believe this. It doesn't always work like that, you know? So the way, you know, the thing is like, I may not like, you know, spaghetti. Josh, you may love spaghetti, but we're not going to hate each other because of that. It just means that I'm going to get stuck eating spaghetti when I go to your house, but you're not going to eat it in my house. Like, and that's where people as individuals, and I think part of that was coming up being raised that way too, is that you're always told to surround yourself with people that are on the same track as you or that share the same thoughts as you and the same hobbies. I don't necessarily agree with that either, just for the simple fact that when I start meeting people from different backgrounds, that's when I start growing as an individual. I start learning things about people. And, you know, I mean, I'm into board gaming, you know, I love fishing, you know, I love shooting. There's so many hobbies that I enjoy doing. Podcasting, you know, it's one of those things is I didn't learn all that on my own. You know, a lot of this stuff I've learned how to do through other people. And just because, you know, one person doesn't like board gaming, you know, but they like fishing, okay, that's awesome. We can go fishing together and then I'll play board games with my other friends. You know, and that's where it really comes down to just not giving each other enough open-mindedness to accept that we are different. We are all different. We all think differently. We all see things differently. And so, yeah, you know, when you don't see something, when you're that passionate about something and you don't see it from the other person's perspective, yeah, you're going to think that they freaking hate you because you're like, well, yeah, you know, I'm a Trump supporter. Everybody hates Trump supporters. That's not, you know, and that's also been something that's been fueled in our heads by social media and media, is that Trump supporters, and this was huge, you know, is and I'm sure you've seen it, Trump supporters are bigots and racists and things like that, you know, and then we all think that, you know, the left side are all socialists who want free stuff all the time, you know, but those are, and that's not something that we started. That's something the media started.
Right, and that's just, I guess that just blows my mind, that they have all these different platforms right at your fingertips, you know, you have it right at your fingertips, but you kind of still, you choose what you take in and, you know, what you're going to look up, and that just, it's just interesting, because it's, a lot of it, even though the media is there, it still all falls on the individual, on what you're going to look up and what you're going to believe, on what you're going to question. So yeah, that's actually a really good point.
And if you, I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast where he talks to the CEO of Twitter and Tim Pool, and they're like Twitter's legal person, where they talk about it was a lot of it cornered on Alex Jones getting banned from Twitter, and a lot of that was he got reported for the things that he said. And that's another thing that kind of brings back that where media's kind of messed us up as individuals, because if we don't, because it's gotten to the point, if we don't like somebody, we can just tell them and they're like, oh, they get punished for it. Like, that's never been a thing until the last probably 15 years. If you didn't like somebody because they said something, you addressed it with them. Like, you know, it's not behind the push of a key that, oh, they need to be blocked or report them because they said this. I know a lot of people's Instagram accounts who have gotten deleted because they might post a shirtless pic in the gym and somebody hates it, so they report it and then they lose their account. Like, we need to get out of that mentality, and it's all about, you know, that how they say the snowflake generation. I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh yeah. And
I don't even like that term snowflake, but we've become a very soft generation, and I think it's because the media has made it. I know you had talked about this too. Is that the media's like scared people, you know, into believing these things, that it's a, you know, that's the way to handle something. And I don't necessarily agree with that at all.
No, and the media definitely has almost pushed this hyper social justice attitude. Like, this is probably one of the first times that at least I've noticed it actually, like, social media being weaponized against individuals to silence them, and that by all definitions is propaganda. I mean, there's no way around that, and I think people recognize that. But like, people that disagree with Alex Jones, they're oddly silent about it because they don't. I think it's because it goes along with the narrative that they choose to believe, so they just go along with it. But, you know, if it was one of their people getting banned, then they would, you know, be voicing it.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I'd like to talk about, you know, when it comes to this is more about the internet, but have you ever like read like YouTube comments or like Reddit
Oh,
comments?
all the time.
They
I'm not
are-
a big Reddit user, but YouTube, yeah. There's
They-
certain videos I'll watch where like I might have to read the comments on this video just to see what
Oh,
these
yeah.
people are saying.
I
But-
mean, they are brutal, and a lot of it is just like people like us, and I'll admit I've participated because it's kind of fun just to sit there and troll somebody or to just say something that you normally wouldn't say in person, but it's like on the internet you got a different persona.
So have you ever like put a post on social media that you posted it with the intention to spark a conversation or a debate between people you know are going to argue about it?
All the time.
So I mean, but that goes back to that public discourse between people is you got to know where to draw the line, and I think the media doesn't understand that there's a line somewhere that they've crossed years ago that brings this into a whole different realm of weaponizing media.
Yeah, exactly. And two, I don't think, people really like fair fights because a lot of people, I've personally never had a comment reported that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
I never got a notification from Facebook, but I know people who have. And I know people who have lost their accounts due to comments or, material that they've been posting.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely exists, and
Which kind of, in some way, shape, or form, violates our rights as Americans for our freedom of speech, because we should be able to post and say what we want to do. Like, if I want to go drop the F-bomb at the gas station because I spilled gas on my shoe, if there's a kid in your car, I'm sorry, but I'm not concerned about that right now. I spilled freaking gas on my shoe, and I'm pissed.
but however, I agree. You should be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, even if it's the most hateful speech. I have no interest in listening to really hateful speech, but I do think you have the right to say it. However, a place like Facebook or Twitter, an entity like that, they hide behind, well, it's our business, so we can refuse service to anybody, and so they kind of take that into account. The problem is that. Of course, this type of platform, it has so much reach in our population that like a business down the street doesn't have. So that's where a lot of people see the problem with it. Now, me, kind of in my libertarian mindset, I kind of agree. You can edit whatever content you want, whether I agree with it or not. But it is a dangerous game to play, and it is a slippery slope, and it further divides the population, in my opinion.
No, 100%. I agree with you on that. And let's take it back. Almost 20 years ago. I don't know if any of the people listening to this are going to remember this. I know some will, but maybe a majority of them won't. But MySpace.
Oh yeah.
MySpace was a thing, and MySpace was kind of cool because it was like Facebook, but it wasn't like Facebook in the aspect of you got on there, you could put a post on your. They called it. It wasn't a timeline. It was like a wall. Or
I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah,
called.
the term.
It was like your profile.
Yeah, your profile. So when you logged into somebody's profile, like you could have your own background, you could have like your song, like whatever your favorite song was. Like you'd have cool like cursors for your mouse. I know a guy who had a hand with a middle finger. Like you could customize it, like to show people who you really were. Facebook, you don't really get that. But when we talk about going back, and that was never a thing with MySpace. Because MySpace, Tom was always your friend. He was always your first friend, but it wasn't so monitored. It wasn't so like soft. And the thing was like you was kind of the same thing where you could get on and you could throw some comments on there. It wasn't as advanced as Facebook, obviously, but it was one of those things. That's like that's how a lot of people had discussions. I remember I'd get home from school and I'd do my homework real quick and then make sure nobody had to make a phone call. And I'd hop on the internet and hop onto MySpace and scroll through and see what people were doing. And that was back when you actually had to take, the card out of the camera to upload a picture to your computer to upload it to MySpace, because we didn't have smartphones. We didn't have this instant access to all this stuff. And a lot of the news that we got was from the TV because it wasn't just out there. News people or news companies, news broadcasting companies didn't have MySpace pages that they uploaded links to, or newspapers didn't have these pages you can go and read their articles. That wasn't a thing. And I'm going back for listeners. I'm literally going back like 2006, 2005, like less than 20 years ago. And so I remember when I got my first phone, my first cell phone, didn't even have a color screen. I remember when you text, you had to use T9 Word. You had to hit the freaking 7 button to get the, 8 times to get whatever word you were looking for. And so, like, us as a generation, I think that we're the ones that are affected more by this, because now we have information so readily available. We don't got to go to the library to get an encyclopedia to look up an article on obesity or the drug epidemic. We can literally just Google, hey, what are the stats for drug overdoses in 2015? And boom, all the articles pop up from the CDC. And so it's a lot different now, and having gone through that technological advancement, that technological age, it's really huge to see that. And I think that that's we're so wrapped around it that we've come to believe everything because it's so easily accessible.
No, I cannot disagree with that. And it's funny because I remember the jump. I remember when everybody made that jump from MySpace to Facebook, and it happened kind of subtly, but it happened rather quickly as well.
Yeah.
And I would say it was probably, I remember in 2007, I had a MySpace and a Facebook. And by 2008, most people had Facebooks. And by 2009, it was like MySpace was like a dead land.
It didn't even exist anymore at that point.
Well, it was around, but it had changed its name. And
I updated MySpace. I downloaded the app, and I logged in with my old account, and I updated it. And this is, I think, where MySpace messed up, because I had a lot of memories on MySpace, because that was the thing, if you had your MySpace, and that was, like what your Instagram would have been now, or your Facebook. Obviously, we talked about that, but as soon as I updated the app, I lost everything. I still had the same profile, but I didn't have any of my pictures. I didn't have any of my old stuff.
It just makes you wonder what happened to it.
Well, yeah, and that's and it goes back to show that. But it's kind of funny, all these people. I don't know how many friend requests I've gotten from the same person, because their Facebook accounts, they keep getting locked out of them because they don't remember their passwords. Like, that's another thing that's kind of made us kind of screwy with the advancement of technology just in general, is we don't have to remember our passwords anymore because we can save them.
Right.
Which is actually not a really good thing, because that will lead into identity theft, which we could cover in another episode. But yeah, going back to like media as a whole, though, it's not really been as beneficial for us as it has been more of a downturn. Like you said, it has been beneficial, but I feel like the negative effects of it outweigh what actually has benefited us.
It really has. And again, it just kind of blows my mind that people go along with it. That even though I've heard all the downfalls, or all the downers when it comes to talking about technology and talking about media and social media, but yet people, even like us, we participate in it still, knowing how dangerous it is, or I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but we know basically the effect that it's had, and we still participate in it. And I guess I just want to know why. Why do we do it?
Well, it's because we have shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and the Kardashians literally add nothing to our society. The only reason they have a TV show is because they have money. That's the only reason. And then, obviously, Bruce Jenner coming out and doing his thing, his transformation. That really sparked a lot of, also put them on the map a little bit. But we have people that are obsessed with these individuals, these quote-unquote celebrities, who literally contribute nothing to society. And that's where, like, people want to be like them so bad, and I'm like, why? It was like when Kylie Jenner got her lips done or whatever. Everybody was like, oh, the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. And that's another thing we need to cover. Freaking stupid ass challenges that are floating around the internet, like Tide Pods and dumb shit like that, because that stuff's dumb.
Well, and it's dumb, and I also wonder how legitimate it is. I wonder how many, because when the Tide Pod thing was going on, I just remember hearing about it because people were criticizing it. Like, it would always be these people that were uploading the Tide. They're like, oh, I can't believe your generation does this. Does your generation know about the Mountain Dew, underneath your car hood? Like, so I was always criticizing it, but I never actually had any friends or anybody on my timeline that was actually doing the Tide Pod challenge.
No, and
I wonder how real it is. Again, the conspiracy side of me says, oh, this is something that's put out there by somebody to divide the public, to, basically get one generation to look at another generation and say, "Oh, you guys are stupid,"
or move our focus from something else to something new.
Just something pointless.
And I know, like, there was an ice bucket challenge for ALS, which was a good. Obviously, ALS is a huge thing, and it's a huge problem that we're trying to figure out, you know. But then you had all these other dumb challenges, like snorting condoms. I never in my life would I look at a condom and be like, oh, I think I can get that up my nose.
I completely missed that one. I don't remember
that was a
that
thing.
one.
They were snorting condoms. I mean, it was just terrible. And that's when there's this new term out there. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's Insta famous.
Insta famous. I have actually heard that.
And so that's where a lot of this stems from. Is these people they do this video of them doing something stupid, or sometimes something funny, and they go viral. I actually had the ability to participate in a video that went viral, and I'll show you that a little later. But it's not. So many people want to be famous. So many people want people to know who they are, and that's the generation we live in. Is the ability to do things like that. So when people start doing these challenges, like right now they got one going. It's the Get Up Challenge. It's very similar to the that stupid challenge where they hopped out of the car while it was rolling and danced to that song about Kiki and Drake and how that stupid song. Now there's another one. It's called the Get Up Challenge. It's like a country song, but like you do like there's a dance that goes to it. So you upload a video you doing the dance. Those kind of things aren't that bad. They're actually pretty entertaining. But it's the stupid things that people fall in line with. They're like, this guy did it. Like the Tide Pod challenge. That was a big thing for a while, and so was it. And then it evolved. It wasn't just eating a Tide Pod. I watched a video of a guy who cracked one open in his bong and smoked it. Like, bro, I got my mouth soaped as a kid. I can't imagine that inhaling it would be any better than tasting it. Like, I don't get why people want to fall into this trap of somebody else is doing it, so I have to do it.
So when somebody ever tells you that the human race is evolving and advancing, you can just look to the internet to just see that that's complete bullshit.
No, you're 100%. And I mean, it's a select portion of the population. It's not everybody. But I mean, there's people if you look into like foreign countries, and you know, cuz the US is pretty advanced and pretty somewhat evolved. But you look at like countries like down like not even countries, but look at the Amazon, look at Africa. There's literally tribes there that don't even know what a TV is because they've never had it.
Actually, I just learned what a cargo cult is. You ever heard that term?
No, what is that?
So apparently there are still islands, maybe, closer to like the West Indies and that part of the world out east. But a cargo cult is basically a tribe in these islands that they still live very savagely, that we call it, and they don't have contact with the outside world. Or at least they haven't had very much, except for the cargo that has flowed onto their shores, and they actually worship it because they kind of look at it like it's an extraterrestrial or an alien life form sending these things to them. So they have set up get-ups like that and have worshipped it, and people have eventually traveled and have found these things and found these tribes and found a way to communicate with them, and this is what they were telling them that they were doing. Oh yeah, these aliens are sending us this stuff. And apparently that's a real thing. You can Google it. You can Wikipedia it.
We should do an episode on that.
Yeah, cargo cults. We could actually have our buddy Ian on that.
Yeah, that'd be a phenomenal one. But yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like we're so used to just having things like travel the world. I have a buddy who I served with who's in Madagascar. He joined the Peace Corps. He's in Madagascar. He's actually I think he's in his last year now. Good guy, but it's funny. He has a blog on the internet. And he talks about how much differences and how many differences there are between us over here and those people over there that are still living in what we could only describe as the Stone Age. And the thing is if we were to go somewhere like that and try to survive with a tribe, there's no way we could do it. Absolutely no way we could do it. And these tribes have figured out how to battle illnesses and things of that nature. And yet, every time we're sick, we get in the car, we go to the doctor's office, we get a shot, we're good to go. These people literally lay in bed for weeks on end, sicker than dogs, but they get better. And it's there's a really good movie about it. It's an old movie with Sean Connery. It's called Medicine Man. And it's about a doctor who went out and basically became a member of a tribe. I don't remember if it was in Africa or the Amazon. It was one of the two. He was in a jungle. That's all I remember. And he learns how to make medicine the way that they make it. and it was really interesting. Old movie, but you know, if we were to do that now, dude, so many of us would be screwed. I don't even know if I could do it.
Well, there's a whole market right now of people selling like essential oils and stuff, which come from a lot of those old practices. Those I forget what the term is that they call it, but it's like it's because it's not approved by our medical field, so they call it like untraditional practices or something of the sort. But yeah, like essential oils is a big thing. I know a few women who are selling essential oils. You know, oh, you got a headache? Put some of this, on the side of your head or whatever. So, I mean, that stuff's been around, and some of it's helpful, so some of it's not, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and, it's stuff like that we don't see that, I don't know. I mean, but going back to media, man, like, it's ruined us for things of that nature. Trying to understand people is where it's ruined us.
Well, yeah, because the media, mass media, it makes it look like that we have the world figured out.
Mm-hmm.
That we know everything that goes on in this world, and everything that's important would be reported to us.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just obviously not the case at all.
I think also, like, where you said that it's definitely benefited us is like, remember back in the old days when something got leaked, you never really know where it got leaked to. When certain things got leaked or certain documents or videos got leaked, and you're like, oh, where are these videos at? Now it's so easily accessible because when a video gets leaked, guess where it ends up?
It ends up everywhere on Facebook.
Instagram,
Twitter.
It's like, look at this video. And so I throw this out there to everybody because I tell everybody the same thing. And if I look at my Facebook posts from 5-7 years ago, I'm like, bro, what was I thinking? Once you put something out on the internet, it's there. You will never get it back. Nobody understands the cloud, but you will never get anything you put on the internet back. It's kind of like that old phrase that like watch what you say because you can never take words back.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with the internet.
It's the first time in human history that something's actually documenting.
Exactly. And the thing is people don't understand that they are documenting themselves. I know employers that will go through somebody's Facebook before they hire them to see what kind of stuff they post, to see where their views are at. And not necessarily their views, but to see what kind of person they are and whether or not they want to hire them for their business. And it's kind of ridiculous. I didn't think about it till I started hiring people, and that was something we started doing. And I was like, you know what? I was like, it's kind of bad because people post random stuff. I literally had a girl that works for me who added me on Facebook because whatever. And then one night I'm off work, and she put a post on Facebook. She goes, yep, nothing like smoking a bowl before bed. And I'm like, first of all, that's not something you should probably put on your Facebook when your boss is on your Facebook. Like not that I have an issue with that, but I could have drug tested her and she would have gotten fired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an issue with marijuana. That's okay. But thinking of like putting stuff like that on your Facebook, like, yeah, you don't think about it then, but I definitely didn't either. I put some stupid stuff on my Facebook way back in the day. But now that I've gotten older and I try to share this with everybody, be very careful what you post on your social media because it is findable. And especially if it's the government and they get a court order to find it, let me tell you, they're going to find it. It don't matter if you've deleted it, you've deleted that account. There's a log of everything that happens on the internet. And honestly, that's where the media screwed us as well as a generation because we literally have no privacy anymore. And I feel, and it almost seems like that violates some of our rights as well. And we don't even realize it because we're so used to having this thing that we can do this. Like Snapchat. Snapchat keeps every picture ever sent on Snapchat.
Yeah. And I've also heard some of my conspiracy theory buddies say that Snapchat was developed to gain, what is they call it, facial recognition from individuals. And I was like, even if that's not true, that's actually like a really good theory because it makes a lot of sense.
Well, that's like the Face app where everybody was changing their age.
Yeah.
They, everybody made a big deal about that. They're like, oh, now it has X number of faces. I'm like, every time you walked in front of a camera, that's facial recognition, just so you guys know. Every picture you've ever posted on Facebook has facial recognition. And so people get like, it's almost like they play loosey-goosey with which ones they want to believe and which ones they don't. Snapchat was actually not developed for facial recognition, as I heard. It was actually developed for other things, like adultery. things like that. Which actually there was a lawsuit that Snapchat got in trouble for a few years back, if I remember correctly, because they got subpoenaed for their servers. They went through their servers and they found child porn on there because kids were sending nudes, underage kids were sending nudes to each other, and because Snapchat keeps a log of all the pictures that are ever sent, they got caught in and were said that they were in possession of child pornography because of that. That's another thing people don't realize is like if you ever got in trouble, you could actually they could subpoena for those photos and they could pull those photos up, everything you've ever sent. And that's where people forget that everything you do on your phone, where social media is concerned, like you said, it's the first time in human history everything's documented.
Right.
And it's almost sad to think that we fall in that, like we've fallen for that.
Right. And I guess the skeptical side of me is like, so what? Because a lot of people have that attitude, like they don't care. You could tell them all day, oh, you know, you're being documented, and they're just like, oh, you know, who cares? You know, you could tell them, well, you know, the government could find these photos if they really wanted to, and they'd be like, well, you know, I was just in court the other day, and then, you know, they didn't say anything about my social media. So like, it's like people don't care. But, you know, people like you and me, the way that we were trained, we were trained to, you know, always think, you know, be careful what you put out there. And I have not been the most careful. I've actually been very careless with a lot of my words. I've said a lot of vicious things over the internet. And a lot of stuff I do look back on, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yep.
Why did I even speak? I was such an angry kid. Like, what the hell?
Right? Exactly. That's kind of why I wish I could find my own MySpace account, because I'm kind of curious to see what was on there. Because that was like middle school days for me, and I was like, man, if I said some dumb shit in high school, can you imagine what I said when I was in middle school? But it's just the little things like that, like and even now, like how streaming is becoming such a big thing, like Twitch streaming and Mixer and YouTube. That's it's just another form of documentation. And once it's out there, man, you can't get it back. And the media uses that to our advantage. How many times, like, okay, for instance, not to bring up a sensitive subject, but what was the first thing that people did when they found out about the mass shooting in El Paso? Where did they go?
They went to social media, right?
Yep. They went to his Facebook account and started looking at his Facebook account. And they're like, whoa, he said this, he said that, he said this. And it's like, that's the kind of thing that, like, they obviously, it was put out there that he had these kind of thoughts and whatnot. And that's what I'm saying is it documents everything.
Yep.
You know, and that's the first thing we ever hear about anybody that we know is like, oh, Facebook.
Yeah, it is that's kind of a weird thing to think about, because back, 20 years ago when Columbine happened, that would have been the first thing the authorities would have done, is probably gone to those guys' social media and seen what they were posting, and they probably would have saw a bunch of fucked up things.
Exactly. And I had a thought and I lost it.
No, it's okay. But it's actually, this is the first time that I remember where the news, like you'll be watching the news about a mass shooting subject, and they will be, talking about their Facebook. What are they posting? Which political figures are they behind and supporting? Which
we talked about.
Yeah.
And the media made that very, very clear that, this person was a quote unquote Trump supporter and things of that nature.
I guess I gotta ask, why does it even matter?
No, I was literally going to say the same thing.
Yeah, well, why does it even matter? Because it almost, I guess the skeptical side of me is saying, well, the media is trying to figure out, they're trying to basically figure out a profile of person that they can put blame on. This guy was a white supremacist Trump supporter.
Yeah, exactly.
As, before social media, they wouldn't have even reported that, because they wouldn't have necessarily known. They would have said, oh, maybe a family member said that they were a white supremacist, but they wouldn't have the social media to go off.
Exactly. Mass media uses it to every benefit that they can, because they know that that's things that are gonna spark certain people to do certain things, or it's sickening almost. Because it's used as a weapon, and media should never be weaponized.
No, it should have never, but everybody knows that it is. And the fact that some people still have trust in broadcasting media and a lot of fake social media news that's put out there, again, it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what, growing up with it, I think it makes us a little more skeptical of it, because we've seen how it's gone from being a great thing to being a not so great thing. And that's where we kind of get messed up at. And all these kids nowadays are gonna, they're not gonna have that difference to look back at, and it's really it really scares me, to be honest with you, for the next 10 years of the United States' future, because it's really, really gonna get bad. And it's just not only that. Let's not talk about just the media in general, but let's throw this added variable into this. What about the ability to edit just about anything?
I have used, I've edited a few of my comments and posts that I put on Facebook, so I can't say that I'm totally against it, but I definitely doesn't seem like the best thing in the world.
Well, I mean, look at the ability to like Photoshop. Look at the ability to edit any video with the right equipment and the right skill set. You can edit any video to fit any purpose you need it to. And that alone scares me, because how do we not know that some of these videos that the media is shooting are edited? Do you remember last year there was a hurricane? There was a reporter who was acting like he was literally being blown over by the wind, and behind him, two guys walked behind him, walking normally through the rain. Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, they're trying to sell something that may not necessarily be exactly the product we're looking for.
And honestly, as much as I criticize Trump, I would say that is one of the most true things that he has said when he called them fake news, because that's exactly what they are. And honestly, that's what got him my vote, was when he called the media fake news. I don't like a lot of things about Trump, but that was one thing that he really got my vote, because I'd never heard a politician actually just straight up look in the camera and say, CNN, you are fake news.
Well, and not even that, but that's probably one of the reasons why I still support him over anybody right now, is because, yeah, should the guy stay off Twitter? Yes. But has he ever said anything that wasn't true? I mean, in the aspect of like when he's calling somebody out, or when he makes a statement. And yes, he'll make a statement, and he may not like think about what he's saying at the moment, but he's apologized to people because he realizes he may have, because he said something that was pretty messed up, and he's gone back and he's fixed it. But that's the difference you get between somebody who legitimately is passionate about what they do and somebody who's trying to fit a purpose or agenda. They're not feeding a bunch of bullshit to the American people. And the problem is all the media outlets are owned by a very small group of people. And who those people that own those media outlets also fund certain presidential campaigns. So yes, that's another reason why you said earlier, and it took me a while to figure this out or think about this, why people feel like they're out to hate them, and why it's like mass media always seems one side or the other. There's never one that's like right down the middle that sees it from both sides, and that's part of the problem. But yes, see, 90%. I feel like 90% of media news outlets are fake news.
Yeah, I don't know how.
National news outlets, let me tell you. Yeah.
Well, and even a lot of the local ones are, they use a lot of the same language that, like in Lincoln, Nebraska, KETV would be saying one thing, and they'd be using the same language that New York City local news station would be using. And it's like New York City and Lincoln, Nebraska, these are two completely different places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are the same country, but we're two completely different cultures. And why do you feel the need to, speak the same way? It doesn't make sense to me. So
No.
I'm skeptical of all media, even local, but yeah, especially national. National's more of a clown show than the local news stations.
And there's certain things that I never understood either. Is like, if somebody, like, I don't need to hear about every stabbing that occurs in the United States. Let me tell you, if it's not in my state or my town, I really don't care.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think reporters and journalists honestly do the people a service, because I don't really, I don't care about a stabbing or a bat beating that went on in Seattle. And even if it was racially charged or if it was about someone's sexual orientation, I don't need to know that in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, that doesn't affect us in any way, shape, or form.
No, it doesn't. It just spreads fear-mongering.
Exactly, and these people, and that's why kids are now, I feel like the news media outlets glorify things that shouldn't be glorified. Mass shootings being one of them. Kids are so scared to go to school now because of the Parkland shooting and things like that. First of all, parents, don't let your kids watch that crap. Teachers, don't put that stuff on TV in school. I remember when I never watched the news when I was in school. You know what day I watched the news when I was in school? September 11th, 2001.
Yeah.
That was the day that they put the news on in school. The only day, ever.
Yeah.
Why? Because we didn't do it to ourselves. And that's one of those situations, like you said, they're spreading fear. And we don't want to be a country that's scared to go outside. We don't want to be a country that's scared to go and live our lives because there's a fear that somebody might shoot somebody. Guess what? People get shot every day. And it may not be like 30 or 40 people, but people get shot every day. And at the end of the day, we should not be scared to live our lives, because I had a police officer tell me that one time because, I told him about, I talked to him about becoming a police officer, and I said, the only thing that scares me is, being, having a family and possibly, not making it home. He's like, but you can't let that dictate your life either. He goes, because what are you going to do, sit at home all the time? You're not gonna go out and enjoy life. You're not gonna travel. You're not gonna do things because something bad might happen. Some bad things happen all the day. We lose thousands of people a year to vehicle accidents, and those are people that are just driving on the road. I mean, it's not really any different besides the fact that one person caused it. That's the only changing variable in it, to be honest with you. And I'm not trying to be insensitive towards these situations. I'm just saying we can't be scared to go and do things